Soft sticks, please. Oh, look at you. You have a ponytail for a reason. All right, everybody tense up.
All right. I'm gonna act the shit out of this, I promise.
Stop f***ing with me, Tom. Camera's on me now. Sorry, here we go. Now I'm really ready.
What the f*** is the line? I forgot.
I'm not Tony.
Are you Robert Stank?
Hey, can I ask you a question? My suit, is it too much?
Ms. Maximoff Ms. Maximoff manipulates molecular polarity.
Would you like another one?
Moving on.
Same thing that should happen to you. Psychological mother.
Yup. See a smooth motherfucker walking towards you, you speech up.
Get away.
Brody can't take that. He just flips out. There's a fly in here!
You do it for me.
Bam!
I just wanted to punch it so bad.
Oh, sorry.
Fire in the hole. No. No.
Dobre kachestvenai.
Just pretend that didn't happen.
Hey, Mitch, I want this jacket to be my rap gift. Hey, Nate, do we own these shipping containers? I'd love one for a rap gift.
Stay here.
Sorry, hear people laughing.
People falling out the bottom of frames funny every time.
Wanda, Vision is really hurt in the feelings.
Cut the check. Cut the check. I'll take.
Cut the check in this.
Come on, man, I'll see you.
There is the street-level narrative of the Marvel Universe that we've seen. There's the cosmic level, which Thor and Guardians and the Avengers have taken us to. But there is a very important supernatural side to the Marvel comics. Doctor Strange is our perfect entry point into that. You need a spectacular actor to portray this character, and the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch has agreed to do this role is huge for us.
Now we're at the stage where this universe, even within our world, is just about to explode into other dimensions. You've had Thanos, who's already sort of rumbled in the background a little bit, and I think Strange is a natural bridge between what we know of our perceivable reality and something well beyond that.
Dr. Stephen Strange is an incredibly talented, incredibly arrogant neurosurgeon.
Pretty early on, he is in a car accident that mangles his hands and effectively takes away his life as a neurosurgeon.
You begin a spiral down for this character, who begins to spend all his money in search of a cure. And with his last dollar, he's given one more hint, and there ends up being one little doorway that does lead him into a place that is real.
He meets the Ancient One, who begins helping him down the path of healing, but that turns into much more than the mere recovery of his body.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You've spent your life trying to widen it. What if I told you that reality is one of many?
The Doctor Strange story is a great cast of characters. Chief among them is Karl Mordo.
Mordo certainly is the intro to Doctor Strange entering this universe. Mordo is very close with the Ancient One, played by Tilda Swinton.
She deals in magic, in real, proper, inner magic.
Together, both the Ancient One and Mordo, they sort of begin his training.
There are other ways to save lives. So much you don't know.
Teach me.
comes into this world where he crosses paths with Wong. He's kind of involved in the training of young disciples, getting them ready to protect against extra-dimensional forces.
We're excited about villains in this film. We call them the Zealots. These are people who become seduced by what they find on the other side.
Casillas is part of this temple. If the majority is looking for the truth here, he's looking over there for the truth.
He is interested in spilling the barriers between these dimensions.
We were filming in some of the most fantastic locations. The pool was amazing. Kathmandu was absolutely vital to this film. For me to be having my first outing as this man who's right at rock bottom, who's completely broken, looking for some answer in such a spiritual place was wonderful.
The overall design of the film is remarkable, I think.
Every single set is a reminder of how big a universe, film universe, you're part of.
Every hero has a base of operations. Doctor Strange has the Sanctum Sanctorum in Greenwich Village. Inside, it is somewhat of a nexus between many different realities.
Sanctum Sanctorum is utter magic, no pun intended.
What you can expect from this Doctor Strange movie is a mind trip action film.
Might I offer you some advice? Forget everything that you think you know.
It's fascinating working on these movies because the nuances and the subtleties that actors find every time they play the part, and also as they grow as human beings that they bring to the part.
That's kind of the fun part of the process, watching the character evolve.
The first Captain America film is subtitled The First Avenger.
There are men laying down their lives. I got no right to do any less than them.
Born out of the technology of the 1940s, frozen in ice, coming back into the present day.
To me, what's super exciting is like Cap's this kind of guy out of time.
The world has changed. None of us can go back. All we can do is our best.
The great thing about Chris is he's not afraid of also embracing the conflicted part of Captain America, who still pines for the days of the 1940s when he was a kid out of the war.
For as long as I can remember, I just wanted to do what was right. Guess I'm not quite sure what that is anymore.
There is a sense of longing and of loss to the character that Chris never fails to articulate to audiences.
We try to save as many people as we can. Sometimes it doesn't mean everybody. But if we can't find a way to live with that, next time, maybe nobody gets saved.
Steve's going through a lack of trust for other people. In multiple situations in his life, he's seen government fail, so I think he feels that he is the most trustworthy.
In a lot of ways, he's the moral backbone of the Avengers. That is the dynamic. And for Tony Stark to defer authority to anybody, you know that anybody's got to be a pretty stand-up guy.
Lab's all set up, boss.
Oh, actually, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and design everything and make everyone look cooler.
Cap's always been, company man. He takes orders, he's a military guy. If the government as a unit feels that something is for the best, who's Steve to question it?
I thought I could follow orders, serve, throw myself back in. It's just not the same.
Through the events of the Winter Soldier, he learned that it's very hard to trust a government, any power structure that wants control.
It's very interesting to see Steve Rogers, to see Tony very naturally and realistically grow to the opposite viewpoints.
We have orders. We should follow them. Following's not really my style.
On the other hand, he thinks, I remember when the World Security Council sent a nuclear bomb to New York City that we had to stop. When the organization I signed up with S.H.I.E.L.D. turned out to, in fact, be an evil organization, Hydra.
If I see a situation pointed south, I can't ignore it. Sometimes I wish I could. No, you don't. No, I don't.
was always an unresolved conflict that we had to answer, which was, what would happen if he ever found Bucky Barnes? Where is Steve Rogers' allegiance? Is it to the Avengers, or is it to this guy that he lost 80 years before?
It's that thing that gives you those kind of teenage goosebumps. Also, like, I could not get along better with anyone on planet Earth than Evans. And yet they always put us up against each other in movies and where he's like, shake hand and go, but I love you, man, or whatever at the end. Isn't that the mission? Isn't that the why we fight? So we can end the fight, so we get to go home?
Every time someone tries to win a war before it starts, innocent people die. Every time.
This time it's like, let's ditch the handshake. Yeah. You know, and let's see what happens. But of course, neither of us being right or wrong, I just think it adds a complexity.
Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth. But I don't want to see you gone. We need you, Cap.
I am Iron Man.
Who would agree to take orders from an authority figure and who wouldn't?
Captain?
Well, you'd think Captain America, who was a soldier in his own right, would agree to it.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
But Tony Stark, who's gone in front of the U.S. Senate and said,
I have successfully privatized world peace. Yeah, not a joiner.
Yeah, you know, it's a trailblazer.
I just finally know what I have to do. I'm gonna find my weapons and destroy them.
Tony has a lot on his shoulders. And the great thing about Tony Stark and the great thing about Robert Downey Jr. is Tony does evolve as a character over the course of the films.
Tony, you're being uncharacteristically non-hyperverbal.
It's because he's already made up his mind.
Oh, you know me so well.
Tony is a futurist. Tony believes he can see 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead. He feels responsible for everything. He feels like he should be able to invent a solution to any problem that faces mankind.
He's got plenty of doubts about himself, or rather, he's taking an honest inventory of recent events. I see a suit of armor around the world.
Sounds like a cold world, Tony.
I've seen colder.
Based on what has happened in all the other films, what happens when a particular organization gets what the world believes to be too much power, it will always come to a head.
For the past 4 years, you've operated with unlimited power and no supervision. That's an arrangement the governments of the world can no longer tolerate.
He's had these years of battle now as Iron Man, and he's gone through incredible arcs as a character. He's a little wiser for it, you know, and he understands the need to protect the Avengers politically.
We need to be put in check. If we can't accept limitations, we're boundaryless, we're no better than the bad guys.
We wanted to ask the questions that audiences ask when they watch our films, which is, what is Tony Stark's response for the destruction of Sokovia? That seems like something that's really rich in drama.
Who's going to avenge my son, Stark? He's dead, and I blame you.
That's one of the coolest dichotomies. Cap went from being this guy who was built by the government and his allegiance was to the government and it was blind. Tony was kind of always flipping the bird to the government, doing what he wanted to do.
This is the United Nations we're talking about. It's not S.H.I.E.L.D., it's not Hydra.
No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change.
That's why I'm here. When I realized what my weapons were capable of in the wrong hands, I shut it down and stopped manufacturing.
Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose.
If there's one thing that's been very clearly set up, it's that Steve and Tony have a past, and that past goes back, spans several generations. Dad was a pain in the ass, but he and Mom always made it work.
You know, I'm glad Howard got married. I only knew him when he was young and single.
Oh, really? You two knew each other? He never mentioned that. Maybe only 1,000 times. God, I hated you. He's feeling a little misty about his folks, much more than Iron Man 2.
What is and always will be my greatest creation is you.
Tony is finally realizing that all this dough that he inherited, let alone all the money he's made, he was supposed to do something with it.
You know, they say sarcasm is a metric for potential. If that's true, you'll be a great man someday.
Part of what makes the stories fun is they never do anything perfectly, but they're righteous and they're principled people.
This isn't going to change what happened. I don't care.
few years ago, I trashed all my suits. Then we had to mop up Hydra, and then Ultron. My fault. And then, I never stopped. Because the truth is, I don't want to stop. I always like the idea of how do you recover from that? What has to happen for there to be any sort of homeostasis by the end of a rift like that between Steve and Tony?
The Avengers were formed to make the world a safer place. I feel we've done that.
The world owes the Avengers an unpayable debt. You have fought for us, protected us, risked your lives. But while a great many people see you as heroes, there are some who would prefer the word vigilantes.
When we were sitting down and beginning to think of the third Captain America film, we realized that Winter Soldier and the fact that audiences had embraced that film all around the world gave us the leeway to do things that were tonally somewhat different than we'd done in our films in the past, but also do things that have incredible repercussions for the films to come. There's one storyline from the comics that is the epitome of bringing the Marvel characters to a turning point, and it's Civil War.
Iron Man and Cap have such a good juxtaposition. They come from such opposite worlds in their beliefs and their personality, and it just builds this really wonderful friction.
The concept of Civil War is very important to us. We felt like we needed to go in a radical direction if we were going to do another Captain America film.
When you flip through the issues of Civil War, you'll have, in any given panel, a dozen characters fighting a dozen characters. And there are hundreds of characters over the course of that 7-issue book.
It was always led by character, and then spectacle would follow.
Marvel and Kevin, particularly, don't mind the big swings. So the thing that maybe some people might step away from and say, oh, it's too early for this, or we don't have enough characters or whatever, that we can possibly do that, they go, let's try it. And in trying it and in developing it, we all, oh, this won't be exactly like the comic, but boy, this will be pretty cool.
By this point, people know Steve Rogers very, very well. People know Tony Stark very, very well. We know how they work together, and we know that they have some issues with each other. They're very, very different people.
You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
A hero? Like you? You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers.
The book, Civil War, is so grounded in this idea of Captain America leading one side versus Iron Man leading the other side that we just felt that if we were going to try it in the MCU, it was critical that we had those two components.
Civil War became the overriding principle. It was like, we do realize we need Robert.
Wow, it's so weird how you run into people at the airport. Don't you think that's weird?
Definitely weird.
To me, what's super exciting is like Cap needs to grow and change and have darker, more complex challenges. And I think for Tony, it's like, you know, what are the real world challenges and ramifications of dealing with superheroes on planet Earth?
There's no decision-making process involved for me here. We need to be put in check.
Watching the two of them together and seeing them, you know, being in the moment and listening to each other was absolutely so much fun to watch.
Everybody is always looking for ways to surprise themselves and surprise audiences about where we can go. And we had a very clear idea about how we wanted to do that with this movie. And I think once Robert got into that, he became very, very excited about it. And he's been an amazing collaborator on this film.
It's no secret, I love Chris Evans. I deeply respect the guy, and I learned from working with him. And he's also really reverential to me, which goes a long way.
Downey might be my favorite actor. And it's just, it's such a, you know.
I'm glad we spoke before this little sit down.
The fact that now Iron Man and almost every Avenger is in Captain America Civil War showcases just how far we've come in the development of the cinematic universe. That we can now, with these beloved actors, these beloved, globally recognized iconic characters, bring to life some spectacular storylines from the comics is a dream come true.
The movie is consciously an effort to bring some of the tone and style of Winter Soldier and merge it with a new style that we're going to use for Infinity War, which is a grander scale look and less handheld. So the styles are merged, and as the movie progresses, it shifts from one tone and style to another. And that was very important to us.
Yeah, this is going to be a great shot.
Directing is storytelling. And when you hear them engaging you in the story and coming up with ideas and seeing the glint in their eye, the excitement about doing something like this, you know you have something special.
Love the Russos. Love me some Russos. We just have a pretty good line of communication open between us.
There's nothing I don't like about them as directors. There's just kind of a simpatico with the way that I like to influence things and then step back and really follow their lead. It's just this kind of dance, this creative dance you want to have.
They know these comic books and these scripts inside and out. I think it wasn't a fluke what they did on Cap 2. You know, and now coming into this, you see it. You see the footage. They just have an eye and a gift for telling these stories.
Yeah, the wings pop out, he does that as you come down. We're here on day one on set, and what we're working on right now is the first fight between Captain America and his rise to the Winter Soldier. You gotta get out there. Oh shit! And then he got.
We want these fights to be big character moments. We don't want there to be fighting just for the hell of fighting. There's a lot of story coming into these fights. And Sebastьян in the last one did a bit of fighting, quite a bit, but not as much as he did on this one. Seb put in so much work in pre-prep to train these fights. With Chris the same. Chris will pick up fights so quickly where if it's hand-to-hand combat, they're so good you can use them. And that is a better way to shoot fights because you see more of the actor, you can shoot wider, you don't have to hide anything when it's your real actors doing this combat. The Bucky apartment sequence, that was insane because that is like a Kickstarter for action in this movie because it starts with the apartment, goes to the stairwell, goes outside the apartment, and then into the second unit where they did that epic car chase.
3, 2, 1, action!
Next to him, he just slips his arm in right before he jacks out the door.
We follow the continuing story of the Winter Soldier, who Captain America cares very much about, and who believes he can get his best friend back.
Bucky was the guy who's always been there, he's always had his back, and Steve's a loyal guy. I'm sure there's a certain sense of guilt based on what happened to Bucky. Which Bucky am I talking to?
Your mom's name is Sarah. You used to wear a newspaper in your shoes.
As much as Civil War is the trappings of the film, it's really about Steve making a decision for the first time that's personal over sort of a global version of doing the right thing.
I was really excited when I read the script. I didn't really know where they were going to take it because the playing field was so open they could have done anything with the character. What was fun about the script was that when you were reading him, you never knew where he was going to swing, which side of the fence. He might become the Winter Soldier, he might be Bucky Barnes. So there was a lot of playing room there, and that was fun.
More kills than anyone in Hydra history, and that was before the serum.
You know, my main goal over the past 3 movies has been to find Bucky. So now that I've found him, is just trying to nurture a relationship between the metal arm guy.
You were that in it.
I was in it.
You were in it.
I was gone from the beginning of the movie.
Falcon, who is Cap's new brother-in-arms, his best friend in the modern world.
Full-on Avenger. Hey, you're looking at an Avenger guy. Remember that. This guy. Yeah, thank you. Marvel has made a concerted effort to help Sam Wilson evolve into an Avenger. It's great. I love my new suit. I got my little splash of red. I got Tony Starkerized. Yeah, he high-teched up my suit, and I got Red Wing.
Thanks, Sam.
Don't thank me.
I'm not thinking that thing.
What I'm holding is the scale model of Red Wing. A lot of the flying around we'll be doing with CG, but when we go out on set, we like to have lighting reference. So we'll shoot a shot with CG Red Wing. You won't see any Red Wing flying around, but afterwards we'll walk in and then pretend like we're flying Red Wing with the model on the stick. And then when it appears in the theater, it'll look real.
I got my new jetpack. There's nothing, you know, natural about flying for a human.
Man, it's so annoying that you guys won't let me fly.
But, you know, I could be doing worse. I could be a superhero that runs and not just be running around all day.
I'm so tired. How many takes of this are we doing?
There's a giant set piece that opens the film in Lagos, Nigeria, which is a lot of fun. Our amazing locations team found this backlot, essentially, where we built Lagos, Nigeria, which wasn't an easy feat. When you're able to film in places that are a 360-degree real environment, it allows the cameramen a lot more freedom as to how they frame shots. It allows the stunt guys to really build things in an environment that's real, that gives them scale, so that when you see the film, it's really gonna feel as if you've gone to Africa.
Where we at? We're back in Lagos. We got Crossbones doing his thing today. Frank Grillo in the house.
I thought this would be a great opportunity to have just an unapologetic, murderous, venomous villain who could kind of stand his ground with these superheroes.
Sorry, I don't work like that anymore.
Get me another superhero, I'll bang him up too. When I saw the costume, I was excited. The look of it was kind of post-apocalyptic. It suits the character. Like when I get in the suit, I feel mean. I feel angry.
You know, Rumlow has a history with Cap, and when they get to the point where they are about to apprehend him,
You know I know you. Your pal, your buddy, your Bucky.
Rumlow blows up a bomb, trying to blow himself and Cap up. Luckily, Scarlet Witch is close enough where she can contain the bomb with her powers and get it away from them, but it ends up killing a few bystanders.
I remember reading it and being really excited by my character's just arc in general. I like the idea of her being terrified of her own abilities. The Russos wanted to really keep Wanda's movement to be Wanda's movement, because that's what makes her unique. So what the new elements that we are adding is flying, floating, those kinds of things. It's not just shooting energy towards robots. There's some things that aren't just about like being harmful. It's about moving things. It's about helping Cap take a jump. Like, how do I get energy to launch him?
We try to ground it in this sort of telekinesis, applied telekinesis. It seems like she's getting better at it all the time.
Yeah.
And we'd love to draw on that for an Infinity War DVD.
Yeah.
If you were to ask us who we think the most powerful in the universe is at the moment, just based on what we've seen on screen, it's the Scarlet Witch. That makes her a very interesting character because she's also the youngest.
Her abilities are just probably the most formidable. I think we need each other in a lot of ways. You know, I need her abilities for a lot of things, and then she needs me to kind of keep her head straight. She's kind of a loose cannon, insecure and powerful and just all terrifying in itself. The Russo brothers was my first time working with them. They're very passionate about this universe, but they're also just cinephiles in general. And they refer to a lot of different things. They refer to, like, Hawkeye's like, maybe I think like Han Solo. I'm like, well, I'm glad you think that way, because that's kind of what I was kind of hoping for, very irreverent and kind of same sort of skill set, essentially.
Don't you think Laura would be disappointed?
Me or you?
What you're seeing here is the third version of the Hawkeye bow. Made a few changes, lightweight, easy to handle. We took back and went to the Avengers 1 quiver with a few modifications. It's slick, it's thinner, it's lighter, easy to work with. The bow, we need to make the draw pretty easy for certain scenes. And the way to do it is we take the bow, we pull it back, we make a mold in this position and remake the entire bow so that when he grabs it, he needs to pull fast, not too much stress. We have a 12-hour day, he's got to pull it in excess of 100 times a day. Got to help him out.
Buckled in?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good, Arrow guy. Let's go. Let's go.
One of my most favorite things in this universe is when the characters use each other's assets or their abilities to be better. And I kind of do with Ant-Man. Put a little coffee in him, but he's all right. Right?
When I showed up here for the first time and was doing a scene with
Captain America and Falcon and all that. It's like, whoa. I turned into a bit of a 10-year-old. It was pretty strange and really cool. And kind of the first time I thought, man, I really am part of it.
This is awesome. It's Captain America. You. Right on.
I think on the face of it, if you think of Ant-Man, you think, man, he's going to be overmatched when he faces the other Avengers. But the truth is, the power to shrink is something that shouldn't be overlooked.
I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss.
I'm the boss!
The new suit is really streamlined and looks a little more high-tech. Now it looks like it's been tricked out and kind of fits in with modern times a little bit more. And it was exciting. You know, I had that same feeling as when I tried it on the very first time in Ant-Man, which is just, I'm looking in the mirror like, this looks awesome.
Oh, what the hell was that?
The helmet is different. You know, they're no longer the cables that snap back into the back of the helmet. Antennas go up from the bottom now. The regulator is different. There's no dial on it. I think that Hank and Scott have been hard at work really getting this thing fine-tuned.
Ant-Man has the history of the anti-Stark sentiment as expressed by Hank Pym and Ant-Man.
Guess Hank was right. You never can trust a Stark.
He lines up pretty cleanly on Cap's side. You want to surprise the audience, and you want to make some choices that are interesting, because if everyone can predict who's going to be on whose side going into the movie, we didn't do our job right. So there are some, you know, surprising choices made in the film.
But also, I would say what was really determinative, too, was it was really important to us that every single character had a personal, emotional reason for making the choice that they made. That was trackable in their arc from the beginning to the end of the movie. And sort of that, I think, was the most fun part of deciding who sided where, was figuring out what on the deepest level could move these characters to go one way or the other.
Well, it's not villain versus hero, it's friends, it's family. This is sometimes the most dramatic conflict, when it's people that actually have a history and care about each other. I obviously start out with Falcon, Maki. You know, he's been Cap's right-hand man for a while now.
Falcon, he slows everybody down. You know, he's like the character, like the bigger guy in the Goonies. That's how I look at him.
And we've since, you know, we found Bucky first, we broke him free, so we in turn have the Winter Soldier on our squad as well. We also have the Scarlet Witch.
I was just kind of looking around like, we've got a really good team, you guys. And it felt that way. And we had like all the jokey people on our team.
What are you guys doing? What's up, dude? Don't worry about it. What? It's just, you guys gonna run through the fire or something?
We recruit Paul Rudd. We recruit Ant-Man. Maki does, because Maki has a little history with him.
I thought I didn't have any abilities. What's Ant-Man gonna do?
Can't forget Renner. We get Hawkeye. That's a huge get.
We're facing off what I think is a pretty good team on the other side, too, if I think about it.
Tony's side is a little more complex.
The surprise members of that team is Black Widow.
You partially agree with me.
I would like to take that.
This is unprecedented. I'm thrilled.
She makes an ideological choice rather than an emotional choice. The emotional choice obviously would be the side with Cap.
It's painful, I think, that she's, I don't want to say turned her back to Steve, but she's definitely, you know, she's gone a different direction.
What are you doing here?
I didn't want you to be alone.
They do care about each other. They are, in some ways, a brother and sister, but it doesn't mean they agree about everything all of the time. And that's what makes Civil War so compelling, is the people that you would naturally think would flock together are split apart by something that's very real.
In the absence of Fury, she's thinking like a Nick Fury in this movie.
More guns, which means more headaches for somebody, probably us.
What makes this character really heroic is that she's kind of dug her heels in and said, look, you know, I could kind of go down this road, which would be the more desirable road personally, but she chooses this kind of greater calling. And in this film, we really see her move closer to a kind of leadership position.
You'll have to understand if we seem a little blindsided.
We knew someone was going to have to think one way and then see the consequences of their actions and turn. We chose Natasha as the one who could have a conscience ultimately and say, oh, this is too far.
She's a bit torn in her relationship with Tony. I think she really sees Tony very clearly, sees his weaknesses as being a danger for the team.
You don't get it, Stark. It's not yours to handle. It's clear you can't be objective. I'm putting special ops on this.
What happens when the shooting starts? What, do you kill Steve Rogers?
Well, it's great always to bring back a character into the universe who has a point of view and then apply that point of view or alter it slightly, give them a new presentation.
What if I told you we were putting a team together? Who's we?
We thought it'd be interesting to take General Ross, who was this hard ass, give him a heart attack, mellow him out a little bit, but give him that same agenda of control.
Everyone was on board, which made it great. There was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor.
Found something. 40 years in the Army never taught me. Perspective.
If you get William hurt, you gotta use him.
You seriously think I'm gonna listen to you after that fiasco in Leipzig? You're lucky you're not in one of these cells.
It's funny, because I have a bit of a trippy kind of, arc with him, but I adore the guy.
How'd they look? Thrilled, Tony. They look thrilled. I was absolutely riveted by the comics and found them to be so imaginative and so morally authentic. They asked real questions. One thing that I've always wondered about in all my readings of all of these superhero comic books, what about the collateral damage? Suddenly I've got lines about it, and I've been waiting for that all my life. For the past 4 years, you've operated with unlimited power and no supervision.
They want us to sign the Sokovia Accords, which will allow the UN to tell us when and where to go. Steve feels this is the wrong move, Tony feels it's the right one. And that kind of begins the conflict.
You need an actor of his magnitude and his presence to be able to stand in front of that group of actors, hold the room, and make the audience fear for the future of the Avengers.
And if we come to a decision you don't like?
Then you retire.
Rhodey, the War Machine, here's a guy who's only really ever served in the military. So the idea of oversight to him is nothing new.
Right. 117 countries want to ratify this. You're just like, nah, we got it.
Look, how long are you gonna play both sides?
There's only one side, Sam.
It's usually Rhodey who's trying to pull Tony back, and now Tony is saying, no, I'm kind of on this side, and we need to do it this way. It's nice to have still yet another progression to their relationship.
We need to be put in check. Whatever form that needs to take, I don't care. I'm game.
I don't want to be in a universe where Rhodey and Stark aren't still brothers, and they've been through so much that it would be like, that to me is almost would be like, that's too many fractures.
War Machine has a whole new look. He's a lot bulkier than he was in the previous movies. It feels like he's back to being a full-size, almost wearable tank in a lot of ways.
Sorry, Cap, this won't kill you, but it ain't gonna tickle either.
Every time I'm in the suit, there's improvements. It gets lighter and lighter. So this suit is probably the lightest and most, malleable it's been yet. I could actually touch my nose with my arms this time. So I was very happy with the suit.
Stand down now.
The idea of civil war only works if the people on opposite sides should be together. If there are two opposing sides that are always in opposition, I guess that's interesting, but it's not as interesting as people like the Vision and Scarlet Witch, who would seem to always want to be on the same side.
Viz, we talked about this.
Yes, but the door was open, so I assumed that...
What I love about Vision, he's sort of on his own quest, which is to understand human beings, and he realizes that loyalty has got to come through love, real loyalty. So I think that he's very intrigued by what love is.
Friends, I know you believe what you're doing is right, but for the collective good, I cannot allow this to continue.
He's trying to get both sides to behave in a manner that's acceptable and move forward in a very logical way. It's complicated by the fact that he is starting to experience affection for Scarlet Witch.
Spirits lifted.
Which is something from the books that's a great arc for him.
The way that they've intelligently linked them is that they're powered from the same source. So wherever she gets her powers actually came from the same stone that gives him his whole life.
Miss Maximoff manipulates molecular polarity, allowing her to alter reality. I'm a little harder to explain.
What you struggle with is he is AI, he's not human, and yet he's the most
subdued and felt sentiment in the room. He makes sense in every level, in a logical level and in an emotional level. Although he doesn't mean to, because it's a computer, he doesn't know the difference, but it's, his performance is spot on.
Mr. Stark would like to avoid the possibility of another public incident until the Accords are on a more secure foundation.
And what do you want?
For people to see you as I do.
There are moments of such intense claustrophobia in this thing, because you are wearing a rubber balaclava that comes down to underneath your eyebrows and comes up to your chin, and this is the only piece of your entire body that is open to the air, and even that is covered in layers and layers and layers and layers of makeup. You really, really have to focus on the meditate and focus on the long line of actors that would like to be in your position, and just remember how lucky you are. Are you smoldering? I'm smoldering.
Yeah.
You doing the eye squinty thing?
So much of the Civil War story is told from Captain America's point of view. We've brought in Tony Stark to showcase that other side of that argument, and it's really the two of them and the people that team up with them. But at the same time, we thought it would be fun to introduce a third side, to introduce a character that audiences have wanted us to introduce for many, many years, who comes in and is really not agreeing with either side in particular and can represent sort of fresh eyes to see Tony's side of the argument, to see Cap's side of the argument, and frankly, to not necessarily care about either side of those arguments because he has his own agenda, and that's T'Challa, the Black Panther. The notion of the Black Panther, the nation of Wakanda, where he comes from, has been seeded going back to Iron Man 2. So it really felt like this was time.
Kevin was like, hey, we're calling you about this character that I think you're interested in. I think you know who I'm talking about. And I said, yeah, I think so. Like, are you interested in playing him? Yes. It was really that simple.
Chadwick is a really smart, interesting, dynamic guy.
I think Marvel is so consistent at bringing on such fine actors. It really feels like he's added to this group.
Right. Yeah, that was good.
And his presence on set, I think, raises the stakes a little bit for everybody.
Growing up, I was a Black Panther fan. To see Black Panther come to life is really kind of like a dream come true. Chad gives him a great energy. He gives him a great confidence, a stoicness that I feel that character needs.
Hey, what are you doing?
Black Panther's been so incredibly exciting. In the comics, he's so ferocious. He's one of the best trained martial artists in the Marvel Universe. Where Cap is based in old school martial arts like judo, karate, taekwondo, aikido, you've got Panther with the more kind of flowing martial arts. Like we're basing stuff off of capoeira. A lot of his acrobatic movement is capoeira, and a lot of almost Chinese influence with kung fu used with him.
Yeah, that's good. I did some martial arts training, some fight training with the stunts as well. We turn everything a little bit. Yeah, that's it.
Because Black Panther comes from his own culture, we usually try to find the touchstones for each character and what is really going to drive the design language for that character.
The Black Panther has been the protector of Wakanda for generations. A mantle passed from warrior to warrior.
Because Wakanda has not really been specifically figured out or designed yet, it was a little bit of a challenge because we didn't know how sci-fi or what that language was going to be. So a lot of our early takes were trying to figure out, should the suit feel very sci-fi? Should it be sort of really representative of a technology level that is even more advanced than Iron Man? Or should we really push for sort of really cultural things? Like, you feel that this suit is the pinnacle of that culture as opposed to a technology. What we ended up trying to bring to it was really a sense of that combination of the two. Woven into that construction is also the culture. So there's a lot of sense of etchings and very fine detail that would be from hopefully a cultural roots, but the way it was executed was a way that our technology level wouldn't be able to be accomplished.
It's supposed to be a vibranium weave. It's a vibranium weave into it. It's essentially it's armor. First thing I thought is they're gonna be little kids trying to dress up like this. Oh, Halloween. That's the first, literally the first thing I thought was like, oh, wow.
There's something really exciting about in a Captain America movie who's known for his shield, this vibranium shield, to introduce Black Panther. They're coming from Wakanda, where vibranium came from, that made his shield, and who wears a vibranium suit. So there's a natural symmetry between the two characters in their iconography.
It's amazing. Every time you see these suits, it's like, oh, that's another cool character.
On the ruse!
Hey, everyone.
He is the top of that pyramid when it comes to our characters. He's been Spider-Man for at least 6 months when we meet him. We don't do the spider bite. We don't do the death of Uncle Ben. We've seen that before.
When you see him on screen, especially next to characters like Tony Stark, next to Steve Rogers, he brings something special and different to that role because there is an innocence to him.
We wanted to go back to sort of like a retro look to him, and I think we created that, and yet this is a Tony Stark suit, so it's not just everybody's Spider-Man moment, so this is something that Tony gives him. So it's got some pretty cool moments.
While we have all the spectacle of Spider-Man, you also want to focus on the drama and the conflict and the humor of Peter Parker. And that's one of the reasons why Tom Holland, we think, is going to be so incredible and so amazing as Peter Parker.
It was more important to find somebody more age-appropriate that would convey that energy and that naivete that would come from being that age and having that kind of power. We also thought it was really interesting to take that naivete and smash it into the cynicism of a Tony Stark.
Hey, Mr. Stark, what should I do?
What we discussed, keep your distance, web them up.
Okay, copy that.
Now we're going to see how he differs from the Tony Starks, from the Steve Rogers. And we will meet him for the first time as he gets his first taste of being a part of that world.
You got hard, kid. Where you from?
Queens.
Brooklyn.
And action.
Hello, Mr. Stark? Should I go get those guys up there? Peter is such a young kid, and he's so, oblivious to kind of what just went on. Tony hasn't told him anything. All Tony said that we need to go to Berlin, and you need to just have my back, kind of thing. I can't go to Germany. No, I've got homework.
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
We're fortunate enough to end up with Tom as Spider-Man, who has a very capable physical background himself and brings an awesome physicality to the character that is a lot of fun to watch.
But please don't come at me when you wake up.
This is one of the most beloved Marvel characters in the Marvel Universe, and our job is to make him look different, make him look cool, and do something that people haven't seen before, and I think we're doing that.
I know we're on different teams and we're fighting and all, but I love it, dude. It's awesome.
Team Tony. Team Tony Tiger.
Our team would be Tony Stark, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Vision, and War Machine.
Pick your sides really, really carefully.
It's all been leading to this. Sparks are gonna fly. The throwdown.
Today we're shooting one of the biggest scenes in the movie, in Civil War. It's one of the biggest scenes, I think, in any Marvel movie ever.
Old friends, now forced to fight on the battlefield. Great.
We refer to it as the splash panel.
It's like a double panel in a book. You open up and you look through it and you look for all the intricate detail of who's fighting who.
Some are foregrounded, some are backgrounded. It's very...
So those are our cinematic equivalent of a double panel or a splash panel.
This is like a comic book fan's dream to see that.
Oh, we doing that?
Yeah.
We had other comic book fans out there on the crew who were tearing up, and it's amazing to see how much impact this mythology has on people who grew up with it.
Best crew ever. I've had so much fun.
You know, there's been a few moments in these films where you kind of look around and, oh, I'm in good company. This is rad. All right, you know, I got my costume on and I'm ready to kick some booty.
There was one moment where we had everybody there. It definitely felt like we were shooting something epic.
These are the real heroes. I'm terrified. I'm saying I don't know what to do.
A lot of great actors on set today, a lot of great stunts going on. It's gonna be a really hot and fun day.
It was very surreal. Everyone turned to everybody else and was just kind of wide-eyed and saying, like, this is the first time and the last time this will ever happen.
My mind's about blown. His might be as well.
If you're talking about two sides lining up against each other, more powerful characters become key pieces. It's like a chess match.
Just kicked War Machine, he lands, he's facing you, and then you come across.
No one's obviously trying to kill each other, so it's a different kind of fighting technique. We're divided, kind of ridiculous. Why are we fighting? What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? Come on.
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
The great thing Marvel has done, instead of putting all the superheroes in this movie, they've been able to match the superheroes up pretty well.
Can you get them off me? Even though everyone's fighting all at the same time, they have to obviously do like insular sort of fight moments. This can't seem to miss.
Well, first time for everything.
Multiple contusions detected.
Yeah, I detected that too.
We've been spending months basically prevising it, and basically where we'd go in on the computer and just plan the attack. And one of the complications about it is like just the sheer number of heroes you have fighting each other, finding those moments that we most wanted to see, and getting every hero a chance through the course of the film to kind of interact with each other and fight with each other. That was probably one of the hardest parts.
The amount of prep going into that sequence was more than anything I've ever seen or done. That's the fight that people have been talking about in the comics for years of what would happen if this character fought this character. Well, we had to kind of give answers to that.
When you have a splash panel and you have a bunch of superheroes, go big or go home, right? And the idea was, what new trick can we do that will potentially be a showstopper so that we can achieve all these guys from stopping one another?
Throw it at this. Now! Oh, come on! Oh, man, I thought it was a water truck.
Paul Rudd is very funny. And you bring him to a giant superhero fight, you could see the other side going, all right, well, you brought an ant.
On my signal, run like hell. And if I tear myself in half, don't come back for me.
He's gonna tear himself in half?
You sure about this, Scott?
I do it all the time. I mean, once, in a lab, then I passed out.
Okay, tiny dude is big now. He's big now.
Suddenly, Paul Rudd, perhaps for the first time, is terrifying.
That's a power that you've never seen in the Marvel Universe, and I think, again, gives our film a scope that's going to be unexpected.
Okay, anybody on our side hiding any shocking and fantastic abilities they'd like to disclose? I'm open to suggestions.
In a scene where there's so much going on, you need something new, something bigger and crazier. Yes! To kind of put the final stamp on it and go into the rest of the movie. And that seemed like a good way to go.
Does anyone have any orange slices?
We didn't want to fall into a structure where the Avengers move into a conflict mode with one another, then sort of repair that and fight another bad guy. It was very important to us that the structure of the film be such that the Act 3 climax was between the actual Avengers themselves.
We are introducing another villain, and he's a very different kind of villain who is not responsible for the events that lead up to Civil War, but who is fanning the flames and who is utilizing this conflict to his own advantage.
The fake doctor is actually Colonel Helmut Zemo, Sokovian intelligence.
It was very important for us to give Zemo a valid point of view, like we were giving. That was sort of the heart of how we constructed the narrative and the storytelling of this movie, is that every character has some validity to our point of view. And we've always been more excited by villains who do have a valid point of view. We've always found them scarier and more threatening than villains you can write off as crazy or unhinged. So Brule has this amazing ability as an actor to hold together both somebody who's very dangerous and scary, while at the same time being grounded in a very relatable human emotions and experience. And I think that's what's so exciting and dangerous about Zemo in this movie. Is he is both of those things.
What was really important to us was that he had no superpowers. He doesn't. He's a human being.
I knew I couldn't kill them. More powerful men than me have tried. But if I could get them to kill each other.
What we liked about the idea of Daniel Bruhl was here's a grounded character in the Marvel Universe reacting to the idea that the Avengers are able to go wherever they want and fight bad guys, but at a cost. And he's the very human face to that cost. And I think bringing his perspective in the movie was really important because it's not just about what other superheroes think about each other, it's what the common man thinks about the idea of superheroes in their everyday lives.
You can't say he's bad. You can't say he's just the bad, he's the villain, you know? He has his very understandable reasons for the things he does. And that's what attracted me about the part, that it's not a one-dimensional villain who is just mean. My character is clever enough to know that nobody is strong enough to kill them, nobody is strong enough to destroy them. So he comes to the idea and to the conclusion that, you know, they should really damage themselves.
The Avengers have made mistakes, and he's a product of one of their mistakes. So he's really a very allegorical villain in this movie. He's just, he's their sins come to call on them. He's methodical and intelligent and passionate about his goal.
And what's really interesting about him as an antagonist is that he's able to do something that Loki and that Malekith has never been able to do, which is to rip the Avengers apart almost without throwing a single punch.
So how does it feel? Spend all that time, all that effort, and to see it fail so spectacularly. Did it?
As soon as, frankly, we shot the scene with Zola in Winter Soldier, I had that fact in my head that Steve's best friend killed Tony's parents. What the hell are we gonna do with it? Are we gonna ignore that? You know, that's crazy. But it's so apocalyptic if you let it out that it did seem like, well, we might just have to not tell anybody, you know, because it'll just blow the Avengers up.
Right.
And then when it came time and we reached the agreement, like, let's do Civil War, then it suddenly seemed like we can use the atom bomb we've got.
Right. It's no longer a liability, now it's a benefit.
We spent one movie and a TV show saving Howard's life. Now we're just gonna smack him around the block. And Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, is about to kill his old personal acquaintance, Howard Stark, thereby setting off a chain of events that can only end in, dare we say, civil war.
I thought about this moment forever where I just say, Bucky has just completely been more of an influence in my life that I could have imagined, and not in a good way. As you know, I didn't always handle both beastie. Did you? No. Yes. It's the perfect timing to have that bit of a shocker in Act 3 so that you're like, all right, we thought the movie was going this way. No, it isn't. It's about to get so trippy.
The worst thing that can happen in this movie, the darkest moment, the end of Act 2, is all the Avengers fighting each other. We're not gonna have anything bigger than that. That's crazy, and it's epic. So let's do that. It's the worst thing that can happen. They all fight each other, and then the third act gets smaller, personal. And, you know, it's sad, because if this works right, Tony and Steve beating the crap out of each other is emotional.
He's my friend. So was I.
The level of satisfaction either of them can have keeps flopping. You know, Steve wins, but then he's got to put the shield down. You got Bucky, but who the hell is he now?
At that point, if I'm the audience, hopefully, I'm going to say, all right, there is no way back from this. The whole universe is about to explode.
That shield doesn't belong to you. You don't deserve it. My father made that shield. Russo's, they make human stories with a superhero feel, as opposed to a superhero movie with, human touches. That's what makes it so great. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's no clear evil villain on either side of this. It's just a matter of who do you agree with.
There's times in your life when you must make a choice, and that should always be who you are. You should take a stand for what you believe in, and I think this is what these superheroes do. It does divide them, but they do take a stand.
And the question is, will they be able to stick together as the heroic team that they are, or will this division tear them apart completely?
But it's great seeing all those people suited up and knowing that we're tackling a story that a lot of fans want to see, and a story that's going to be the jump off for a next chapter in the Marvel world.
Well, that's what's exciting about Civil War, is that you have the opportunity to tear down this family unit just prior to their darkest hour. You're giving the audience a great distance to travel to see if they actually can pull it back together to defeat what the universe will ultimately consider its biggest threat ever.
No matter what, I promise you, if you need us, if you need me, I'll be there.
And now, I would like to invite Sharon Carter to come up and say a few words.
Margaret Carter was known to most as a founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I just knew her as Aunt Peggy. She had a photograph in her office. Aunt Peggy standing next to JFK. As a kid, that was pretty cool. But it was a lot to live up to, which is why I never told anyone we were related. I asked her once how she managed to master diplomacy and espionage in a time when no one wanted to see a woman succeed at either. And she said, compromise where you can. But where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move, it is your duty to plant yourself like a tree, look them in the eye and say, no, you move. We spent our best time together the past few years. I asked her out of all of her achievements, which she was most proud of. She patted my hand, smiled, and said, dear, I'm afraid that's classified.
When I came out of the ice, I thought everyone I had known was gone. And I found out she was alive. I was just lucky to have her. You know?
She had you back, too. After everything happened with S.H.I.E.L.D., during my little hiatus, I went back to Russia and tried to find my parents. 2 little gravestones by a chain-link fence. I pulled some weeds and left some flowers. We have what we have when we have it.
Who else signed?
Tony, Rhodey, Vision.
Clint?
Says he's retired.
Wanda?
TBD. I'm off to Vienna, and there's plenty of room on the jet. Just because it's the path of least resistance doesn't mean it's the wrong path. Staying together is more important than how we stay together.
What are we giving up to do it? I'm sorry, Nat. I can't sign.
I know.
Well, then what are you doing here?
I didn't want you to be alone.
Here's to an honorable discharge.
You sure you're okay with this?
I'm not worried about me. I make a great civilian. You could, too.
So when you were spying on me from across the hall,
You mean when I was doing my job?
did Peggy know?
She kept so many secrets. Didn't want her to have one from you.
CIA got you stationed over here now?
Berlin, working for the Joint Terror Task Force.
Sounds fun.
I know, right? So this Accords thing is happening?
Maybe I'll take some time off.
When was the last time there wasn't a uniform hanging in your closet?
Why, you don't like the outfit?
Oh no, it suits you. Believe me. Well, thanks for walking me back.
Sure.
Hey.
Something you gotta see. Nice save.
I gotta get me one of those.
So I guess when you said you'd do it yourself, you meant you'd do it yourself.
You are not used to the truth, are you?
I got a look at your suit, vibranium weave. I'm very impressed. You realize that this puts you under the Accords jurisdiction.
How long do your psychological evaluations usually take?
Why, you bored?
Not currently, but my prisoner and I have a plane to catch.
I realize you're not one for politics. I think there's a chance you may be being a bit naive.
Congratulations, Your Highness. He got extradition.
Yes, Ms. Romanov. I'm sure I have much to learn.
We need to plan something for Carl's birthday next week. He says you promised him an Xbox. He's very excited. I'm going to bed. I love you. Come home soon.
Vous êtes Monsieur Roussel? C'est moi, enchanté.